Alright guys, today we're going to solve this equation for x by taking the square root. So we're going to use inverse operations. The first thing we're going to do is get rid of the 10 by adding 10 to each side of the equal sign. So that leaves me with 9x squared equals 8. And then when you have a number right next to a variable, it means to multiply, so the opposite of that is dividing. So I'm going to divide by 9 on each side of the equal sign. 9 divided by 9 is 1, so we can just cross that out. That leaves me with x squared equals 8/9. Alright, now I need to get x by itself by getting rid of the squared. The opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. So I'm going to take the square root on the left-hand side of the equal sign. If I do it on one side, I have to do it on the other. The square and the square root cancel each other out, and that leaves me with x equals, and the square root of 8/9. This is certainly not a perfect square, and I don't want to get a decimal. So what I'm going to use is the quotient rule to go ahead and separate that into the square root of 8 divided by the square root of 9. When I do that, the square root of 9 immediately pops out at me as a perfect square. Square root of 9 is going to be a positive or negative 3, so I'm going to put 3 in my denominator. Now the square root of 8 is not a perfect square, so that doesn't easily simplify, but I'm going to use the product rule and see if I can take out a perfect square to simplify it. So the factors of 8 are 1 times 8 and 2 times 4, and that's it. So the perfect squares there are both the 1 and the 4, but I always choose the biggest one to simplify. So my biggest perfect square is 4. So I'm going to rewrite the square root of 8 as the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. The square root of 2 is not going to simplify, but the square root of 4 is, because it's a perfect square. So this gives me a positive negative. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 2 just comes down, and the square root of, just 3 is just in my denominator. So these are two real solutions for this quadratic for x. Alright, that's how you solve a quadratic by taking the square root.